Okay, here's my Bible, and what I have in my Bible is I've written down, this is where we are. We're right after the fire in Rome. Nero is persecuting the Christians, and Paul and Peter are going to be martyred. So 2 Peter is just before Peter's martyrdom. He is on his way toward going to meet the Lord, being crucified upside down. And so in my Bible, we're looking at something that's occurring right here in the late 60s. And I've jotted that in my Bible. Now here's everything that I've taken in my journal, okay? I titled the top of the page, week 48, 2 Peter 3. Then I write my own title. Now you say, how do you do that? Well, it's just whatever you can summarize you saw in that chapter after reading it. And each time I read it, I write a new title. And this time through, I wrote what lasts forever and why it lasts forever. And then, does God shape my daily living? Here's a summary. God uses 2 Peter to get them ready for the reality of death. That's 2 Peter 1. The deception of false teachers. That's 2 Peter 2. See, I read the whole book of 2 Peter, although our focus is right here, but I wanted to see the big message. The end of days is what we're covering. But 2 Peter has such a lineup of biblical doctrine. And 1st and 2 Peter, last week we did 1 Peter, is an amazing pair of epistles, and I hope that you're enjoying studying them. Now here's more of my summary. Peter never forgot. As we open to 2 Peter 3, we're opening to the final session Peter had with the growing churches he poured his life into. They're now scattered across the heart of the Roman Empire. Now look over here. I want to show you on this map where Peter's writing. In 1 Peter, we saw this. To the believers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, there's Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. So see, this area, what we would call modern-day Turkey, is the area that is the heart of the Roman Empire. Remember, the empire slowly starts being overrun by pagans, by what they called, the hordes, like the Germanic tribes and the Franks and the Visigoths and all these were all coming across like this. And this part of the Roman Empire is what remained till 1453. So it was the heart of the Roman Empire. Back to our slides. They're scattered across the heart of the Roman Empire. They're facing fiery trials. We studied that last week in 1 Peter. And glittering allurements. They're torn between loyalty to Christ and painful persecutions. Either they're floating along, remember I told you, like floating in a canoe down the river, with the current of the world and its endless pursuits. And so they either are going to go through painful persecutions or float along and not buck the culture. Peter's congregation sounds eerily like the church in America in the 21st century. So the question is, are you floating or are you fighting against the current, paddling or rowing your canoe like we talked about last week? We either float along with the crowd that lives for the weekend, parties and fun, or we live every day as sacred to Christ and suffer. We float along with the world as believers and enjoy as much as we can of both worlds. See, that's what our world is facing. And this is when I would look up and I would say, and all the small groups I have, I always stop, I take my Bible and I say, wait a minute, look up everybody. Think about it. You and I, when we were born, were dropped into the world, flowing away from God. The whole current of culture and humanity is in rebellion against God, going away from Him. When we got saved, Jesus saved us, and it's like He put us in a canoe and pointed us toward heaven. And He said, all of the world is going this way toward destruction. You are going toward your Father's house. And sanctification is me resisting the current and paddling against it and resisting the way I was born with my sinful desires and habits and all the things that I was born with. God says, I want you to be born again and get a new heart and a new spirit. So my question to you is, are you floating along with the current today? or are you paddling against it? The grace of God, Titus 2, 11 to 13, that brought us salvation teaches us to deny, to paddle against ungodliness and worldly lusts. Okay, back to the slides. I don't look across the table and make you feel bad too often. Are you floating along in the river of materialism, or are you fighting against its control of your heart, mind, and will? That's the proof of who we really serve. We try and stay focused on the Lord, especially on Sundays, but so much of our life gets consumed with things, activities, and pursuits, so it's hard to focus on God. Jesus said it's hard to follow his path, and Peter agreed. Last week, we looked at 1 Peter 2 to 4, and we saw that godly living was really a struggle. The empire's greatness was clearly seen. Those huge temples we talked about, the sprawling bath complexes that could hold thousands of bathers, the crowded athletic stadiums, the acoustically perfect theaters, the bustling markets of Asia. We can see that very little has changed from Peter's day to ours, and God's word speaks so clearly to our lives as it did to theirs 20 centuries ago. And that's the power of the supracultural timelessness of the scriptures, inspired by God.